It's nice when you can do it.
It sure is. Well, you can provide updates to it now.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Well, look
Hi,
at,
everyone.
hello. Heidi, Andrea, Heath. Well, we got a quorum, Brian.
We do, but I hope, the only one I know is going to be late is Max, but he'll join us just a little bit late. We are missing the mayor's thank you party, holiday party for all the commissions tonight.
Tonight was the night?
Yeah, it's tonight,
Okay.
but she got word that we were meeting and couldn't attend. But Max is bringing somehow he got tasked with bringing, a truckload of toys to the meeting tonight. I guess they're collecting toys and things. So he said, I gotta go drop those off at the restaurant and then I'll join the meeting. So, but because Max is a high school teacher.
Oh. Now, what restaurant?
I think it's the one right down on PVW there. That's the one they always use. What's it called again? Your old neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh, the
What, at the Wilshire Grand?
Wilshire Grand, yeah.
That's the one.
That
Really?
it's the old hotel, the old Goldman's Hotel.
Goldman's?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what it was called. It was actually a summer resort for people from Newark and New York, and you didn't want to make the trip all the way out to the Catskills.
Oh, I
That's
got
large.
Joe Fagan, if he's got some photos of that, I'm sure it looked very different.
So I'm sure he did. He does.
Cynthia, do you not have heat? You look like you're in a very warm coat. We can't hear you, Cynthia. Your microphone is off.
Okay. Sorry about that. No, I just have a big sweatshirt on. That's all.
We can't see the writing. It looks like almost like a, I don't know,
Oh,
yearling coat or something.
well, it is a big sweatshirt.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello, Patrick.
He's still muted.
He's muted too. Who are the
Hello, Marty. Hello, Brian. Hello,
Hey,
everybody.
guys.
Hey,
Hi, Patrick.
Ooh,
Who are the four oranges?
Well, that would be Darren from the online publication, The Four Oranges. Do you
Oh, right. Okay. Yes,
want
yes.
to say
I
hello,
was gonna say that sounds familiar, but couldn't remember.
Darren, just so you know, if you can still hear me, I see you're muted and everything again. We have one small issue to discuss, but 90% of the meeting tonight is going to be devoted to a presentation which we use as our annual required training for the commission. You're welcome to stay on and listen to it. It's actually going to be a fascinating topic. But if you decide to leave, I certainly understand. Okay. All right, who are we still missing? We are missing Jeff. Who else? We're missing Jeff and Max, right? Well, Max we know is going to be late. Jeff is coming in. There we go.
Will Councilman Krakowiak be available, or is the town party or whatever?
I mean, he knows about the meeting.
He's at the party.
Well, he might be at the party. Well, I don't know if he invites the council or not. I mean, this is supposed to be just for all the volunteers.
Okay, well,
But we'll see. Good evening, Jeff.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Hi, Jeff.
Okay, well, as I said, we know Max is going to join late, so we have everyone else. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Township of West Orange Historic Preservation Commission. Today is December 17th, 2025. Notice of the date, time, and location of the meeting was given to the township clerk, was advertised in the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger, and it's been posted on the township bulletin board and the township website in accordance with the requirements of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Notification was also made that the meeting would be a virtual meeting, including all details for the public to join the meeting as a video or audio conference. I'm going to call the roll. Okay, I am here, Marty's here, Brian is here, Max I'm going to leave open because he's probably going to be joining us late. Andrea is here, Cynthia is here, Heath is here, Jeff is here, and Heidi is here. And we don't know about Councilman Kukoviac if he can join us tonight. Okay, next meeting is going to be on January 14th, 2026 at 7. The mayor's assistant who, that's the person who, it's a new person this year, but that's the person who always manages all the calendars. She's able to, get us on again the second Wednesday of every month. It's not really conflicting with anything else. We looked up, it was just one Jewish holiday, but it's sort of in the middle of it all. Marty, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, was it, which holiday did I discuss with you? And you said, it doesn't matter after the first night.
Passover.
Passover, that's right. So anyway, our dates are clear. They're not interfering with any federal holidays or religious holidays. So we're all set. So again, just mark your calendars for the second Wednesday of every month. Okay, I distributed the minutes from the November 12th meeting. Did folks have a chance to look at it? And if so, you can read through. If you didn't, please read through it now and let me know if there are any corrections.
It was very short and sweet. I was like, oh, is that all?
Well, it's 2 pages. I mean, let me tell you, our minutes are more detailed than almost everyone else's. In fact, at a meeting, a year, 2 years ago, where they called all the commissions together into the council chambers and various township officials addressed us, but the township attorney at the time said, and by the way, if anybody doesn't know how to write minutes, look at the Historic Preservation Commission minutes. Those are good minutes. So
Oh, there you go.
get that nod.
Way to go, Heath.
In part.
And actually, when I do the annual report for the commission required by the SHPO, I have to include a copy of all the minutes, and they too have noted that, we have really good minutes. So perhaps other commissions aren't keeping their documentation as well as we do. Any corrections that anybody saw?
None.
Yeah.
No.
Done.
Okay,
Approve the minutes as submitted.
Seconded.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes accepted. Thank you. What did I do with it? Oh, here we are. All right, we just have 2 things on our agenda for tonight. One, you notice under current business item A, the Condit House, which we've been discussing a lot over the last almost 6 months now. At 6:30 tonight, the subcommittee, which is Marty, Brian, and myself, held a Zoom meeting with the owners and their architect. Now, at our last meeting, we talked about the fact that the architect did submit drawings to the buildings department to go along with the their application for permits. And they were too bare. There wasn't enough information there for us to consider it when it all gets referred down to us. So I asked for a meeting with the architect and the owners, and we had that just got off the Zoom on that. And the architect understands what, is needed for submission for us to consider. Also, he explained that, part of it being there was the fact that the owners only contracted him for so much. So we explained, well, you need to talk to the property owners, because unless it includes X, Y, and Z, we're not going to be able to consider it for a certificate of appropriateness. So I think everybody's on the same page with that now, and they'll see what gets submitted to the buildings department and then ultimately for us to review. Okay, other than that, I've left everything else off the agenda tonight so we could conduct our annual training. We have with us tonight someone well known to us, Patrick Harshbarger, the Chief Architectural Historian at Hunter Research. He's done our training in the past, and tonight, well, Patrick, I'm going to let you talk about the topic. So, Patrick, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks to all of you for coming out by Zoom this evening and for some training. When I was brainstorming about the topic for tonight, it occurred to me that many of you may not be familiar with what the State Historic Preservation Office is doing with the kinds of reports that we produce under CLG grants, and how they're digitizing it and adding it to their Geographic Information System database, GIS database. So I guess my first question is like this, like maybe a show of hands. Have any of you ever looked at their GIS database?
No.
So no one has.
Not
Okay.
for historic preservation.
All right. So what I'm going to do tonight is give you kind of a whirlwind tour and introduction to the database, because I think you will find it very interesting and very useful, actually. It's also another way of visualizing the township and its resources that have been surveyed in the past, including some that you may not be aware of because they've been surveyed under various other kinds of federal or state funded projects, things like Federal Energy Commission, projects on power lines and such that turn up historic resources that have been identified in the township. And unless you know that the SHPO's done this through the database, you wouldn't know. I would add that I've been at this long enough to remember, as many of you are, a similar age or so, know that back in the day, when we did these kinds of reports and did all this survey work, it was all on paper. You got a copy at the township. A hard copy went to the State Preservation Office, and it went onto a shelf. And the only way you could view it was to go find it off the shelf. Sometimes, even at the State Preservation Offices, the reports would go missing because somebody left them on their desk or they got misfiled. And to keep track of that, the State Preservation Office, probably close to 50 years ago, began keeping maps. And they had this big map drawer, the big flats that you pulled out, a quad map, geographic quad map for the entire, probably several hundred of them for the entire state. And whenever a report would come in, somebody in that office would eventually take that report and go to those maps and with a felt pen sort of draw in boundaries or make little notes. Different staff people were better at it than others, I have to admit. And so you would, when it used to be, when I would start a survey like we do in West Orange, my first stop would be to go to the State Preservation Office and pull out those maps, go to the quad that has West Orange on it, and look at all the little notations and try to figure out what had been done and where the reports were. So about 10 years ago, maybe give or take a few years, the State Preservation Office started digitizing and referencing everything that just like sort of like it had been on those maps, but moving it into a digital format. And it makes sense because there's a platform called GIS that's very good at keeping track of data like that. And that's what I want to show you. And this is publicly available. Uh, you all can use it. You don't need a password. You don't need to sign in. It's totally free and it's public information. And you're going to see that most of the survey data that's been collected on West Orange is in there, although there are some gaps. And for instance, they haven't caught up to like what we did in the last year or two. And they haven't put that into the database yet, but they will. And it actually turned out that they had never received a copy of the Acriterian survey from 1992, or if they had, they had lost it.
Oh,
So they asked us for that recently. So I suspect that's going to show up in the database at some point as well. So, do you have any questions? Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen and take you into the internet. Okay. Brian, you're going to turn on sharing, I guess.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay. Okay. How does that look? Is it about the right size? You should be seeing a familiar looking Google page.
Not yet. We have
Not yet?
okay, now we do.
Oh, okay. All right, great. I hope this isn't going to be too laggy, but let's see what happens. So if you were wanting to find this, I would suggest the search term is New Jersey Historic Preservation Office, and then the word Lucy. So that's how to find it. But if you just go to the New Jersey Historic Preservation Office webpage, look around, you'll find it as well. I just put in that search term and I got some hits. And the very first one is the one we want. It's the Lucy Online Map Viewer, New Jersey Historic Preservation Office. Now, here's my first question to you. Does anybody know why it's called Lucy? Have a guess. It's about the elephant, right? The elephant down in Margate. It's a National Historic Landmark. There's the elephant's eyes staring at you when you come to the page. And so this is the launch point for getting into their database. But if you scroll down a little bit past Lucy's eyes, you get some information, which is the basics. By the way, the Lucy acronym is Look Up Cultural Resources for Yourself. In other words, don't call us, just go looking for yourself. And there's some useful information here because when we open up the map and you see the data, it's going to look overwhelming, and I'll just prepare you for that. It looks like kind of all sorts of colors and the maps and the scales, all kind of a little bit. It takes some getting used to. But the basics are right here on this first page, which is that there are layers on the map. And the layers in a GIS system are either polygons or points. And the way to think about it is the polygon is basically just the boundary around a property. It could be the tax lot, it could be the streets. These are all boundaries, but they call them polygons in GIS because someone actually has to draw lines around whatever it is on the map that they're trying to identify. There are also points. And points on the map really are just that. It's like sticking a pin on the map, and they use points for some kinds of features and they use polygons for other kinds of features. And what this is telling you is that when you go into Lucy, you're going to have polygons that represent historic districts. You're going to have polygons that represent historic properties, which are basically the property boundaries, like the tax parcel boundaries, usually, not always, but usually. And you're going to have historic property feature points. And what they really mean by that is that those are like the pins in the map, and usually it's like the center point of a building or the center point of a wall, whatever the feature is that's the historic resource. There's also some archaeological information in here, but it's not very useful because they actually do keep that hidden from the public. And the archaeological data is usually only accessible to archaeologists. And the reason for that is that there's some sensitivity to Native American resources, and most of it is Native American. And there is a problem with looting. And so they don't want to give precise locations on a map for, say, where there might be Native American burials with grave goods in them, or even things like colonial era privy shafts that are full of all sorts of great bottles and ceramics and that kind of thing. Because there are plenty of people out there, if they know where those are, they will go dig it out and try to sell it or just collect it. Uh, and it's actually a state felony to go out and do that on state property. You can do it as if it's private property, if property under permission, you can do it. But if it's public property, it's actually against the law to do that. The other thing that the introductory page is going to give you are some color coding, and the colors on the left here are the various levels of designation that we have for historic properties in New Jersey. And so the darkest reddish color are National Historic Landmarks. Then you have properties that are listed on the state and national registers. They're red. Orange ones are ones that the SHPO is opined are eligible, but they aren't officially listed. Purple's local, so anything you've designated locally would show up as purple. And identified means that they've been surveyed and maybe there's a recommendation from a consultant, but it's not official. And then these gray and black colors are like things that are not considered historic. They've been maybe surveyed and were determined not eligible. They may have been delisted. Doesn't happen that often, but something gets removed usually because it's so altered that it can't be kept on the registers, and then there's demolished. There are some other places you can go here to get a user's guide, learn more about the program, GIS, just generic information about it, and here's more information about the viewer. But I'm not going to go there right now. What I really want to do is launch Lucy and show you the map. All right. So when you open Lucy, you get a map of the state of New Jersey with the counties outlined. And all along the edges of the map, there are lots of buttons. Up here at the top right, there are buttons. Over here at the left, there's some buttons. You can zoom out. You can zoom in. These kind of are navigation tools as well. I'm not going to click on them because they really don't take you anywhere important. Uh, and here you've got a legend that's showing you what the map is outlining in this view. So all it shows at this point is that we're looking at the boundaries of counties. Uh, but in here, you've got a base map gallery. And these are all provided as ways of changing the background of the map. So if you don't like this really simplified, grayscale map, you could change it to an environmental map, and it's got, green for forests and red for urban areas. Um, so there are lots of choices there for the base map behind the boundaries. And I'll change those out as we kind of go through this, show you what some of those are like. But the first thing you want to usually do when you get here is you probably want to go, find some place on the map. So you can type in an address. So we could type in a specific address, for a property, or we could type in a place, just West Orange. So let's start with that. So we zoom in and we're looking at this like little box here, and where it's pointing is more or less the center point of West Orange Township. And you've got all the other townships around it. And as I said, there's all these colors, right? And dots and triangles, and it looks really confusing. Uh, but all of these areas that are kind of colored in are resources that have been surveyed or listed on the national and state registers or locally designated. And so this sort of gives you a sense of the density of the amount of work that's been done over many, many years. And what I'll do to kind of help you focus a little better on this is start to zoom in on West Orange. Unfortunately, there's no real way to like make the boundary of West Orange stand out on these kinds of maps. I mean, we could change the background and it might look a little easier to sort of see. But the boundary is actually this dashed line, kind of goes around Eagle Rock Reservation. You could zoom in and follow that around, right? But um, but it gets better as you zoom in closer and closer. And I'm going to scoot it over this way a little bit. Um, there's Llewellyn Park. It's sort of outlined in red because it's an historic district. Blues identified. Remember the blue, the yellow or orange are eligible properties. And so this is what you get when you open up and you start looking. Remember I mentioned layers, right? There are different layers, polygons and points. Well, these tools over here help you turn on and off different layers. So if I pull, and this sort of looks like a stack of paper or a stack of cards. Well, these are sort of groupings of layers. And if I go to the one called historic preservation, you see we have the historic districts, the historic property features, the historic properties, those are the points, the archaeology. And I could begin to turn them off or on. So there are historic properties. You can see the difference with it on and off, right? These are the historic property features. Those are all those little triangles, which are the actual buildings. And then there's the historic districts. and those are polygons, right? Outlined in blue or red or orange. And I thought maybe we could start there with the historic districts because it's probably the easiest to visualize. And I suspect that some of these historic districts you may not even know are in their database. I may be wrong, but I was at a meeting you had some months ago, and you see this historic district in yellow over here.
PSE&G.
Yeah, it's the PSE&G uh, public, and you can when you click on that, right? You click inside that polygon, it tells you what it is. Is that big enough to read? Feel like I could try zooming in.
That's good.
So it's telling you that that polygon is the Public Service Electric and Gas Company Northern Inner Ring Transmission Line Historic District. And it was determined eligible by the SHPO on May 3rd, 2012. And and there was the official opinion, I guess, is technically 2013.
So Pat,
And
if I could stop you for 1 second.
yeah,
In this or others that have popped up on the map,
Mhm.
we're just seeing properties that someone's at some point deemed eligible, not that they are historic districts. I mean, we only have one listed historic district in the township, and that's Llewellyn Park.
right. Well, there are various I mean, all of these designations and identifications have different meaning in different regulatory contexts. So, if you are right, um, uh, uh, but a historic district like the PSE&G that's been determined eligible that by the HPO, from a federal and state permitting and funding perspective, it has no difference to Llewellyn Park.
In what way?
Well, let's just say that that there were federal funds from, I don't know, pick any agency you want being used to fund a project inside either one of those boundaries. From a regulatory perspective, the State Preservation Office and that federal agency that's funding that project would treat those resources exactly the same, as if they are equally historic. They would follow Section 106. And it would, from a Section 106 perspective, it doesn't really matter whether a property is listed or just determined eligible.
And who would enforce that?
The federal agency.
Okay.
Federal agencies don't necessarily each enforce it to the same level. That's like a tricky part of Section 106 because it's a Section 106 requires consultation and reaching a memorandum of agreement with, if there is an adverse effect, with the State Preservation Office and any other interested historical parties. But not all federal agencies approach it the same way. And you can imagine which ones are, sort of more sympathetic to historic preservation and which ones are. For instance, generally speaking, HUD, Housing and Urban Development, is not as on top of Section 106 as U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Or the National Park Service.
Or then maybe the National Park Service, yes. Well, the National Park Service is one of the only agencies that actually has historic preservation in its mission.
Right.
So all the other departments generally don't. their mission is to provide other services, and so they necessarily have to treat historic preservation as being something that they attempt to fulfill under the but they don't always or not always able to do it within their mission. So that's kind of like the some of the trade-off. Uh, but you're right too that they will have other implications because a property that's listed in New Jersey is normally listed in two places, the National Register and the New Jersey Register. So in this instance, comparing PSE&G and Llewellyn Park, if state funding only were being used in Llewellyn Park or PSE&G, the state funding wouldn't necessarily be reviewable under state law at PSE&G's property, but it definitely would be at Llewellyn Park. And I could go on and on. I mean, it just keep there are other regulations that trigger HPO reviews. Freshwater wetlands permits are one of the most important in New Jersey. And freshwater wetland permits usually get SHPO reviews because for projects for things like bridge replacements, and very often for larger developments because of developers, say, building 200 townhomes on a former farm, sometimes can't avoid having an impact on wetlands. And so those permits get reviewed by the SHPO. So a developer building 200 townhomes on a private property can find themselves having to do archaeology and preserve a farmhouse because they need a wetlands permit, not because there's necessarily any preservation interest in the buildings, from a local perspective or anything.
Remind us again, the property, the area is outlined in blue. That is under what category?
The blue ones are districts that have been identified in various surveys over time. So this one down here is the St. Cloud Historic District that was proposed in 1986.
Is there background on that within the system here that we could find out what it said, who proposed it?
There is. So this is the database. So you're actually looking like at a sort of an Excel table kind of a format. There are a lot of blank fields. But if you go down here, you will see that under recent survey, you've got the intensive level architectural survey of selected properties within the St. Cloud neighborhood and the Main Street corridor and the Township of West Orange, Essex County, Volume 1 report, authored by yours truly.
Right.
And you can also see here that the GIS data was entered in 2016. And further down, there are two related reports. There's the one I just mentioned, and then from 2014, that's this one. And then there's the one from 1986, which is mentioned here. And if those reports have been digitized, if you keep going down to where they say expand the related tables below for details and scan documents. So you keep going down to the bottom here, and we open that. It says no related records were found. So what that means, let me just check this one, typologies, not found. That means that report hasn't been digitized, and it's sitting on a shelf in a binder at the State Preservation Office, and eventually they will scan it and get it in here.
So they're acknowledging it exists.
Yes,
They just haven't gotten around to it.
they haven't got around to digitizing it. Sometimes when you open those up, you get a link, and if you follow that link, it will download the PDF of a full report.
So if this one, which goes back to 2014, right?
Hmm.
If that one's not in, I'm gonna suspect none of those that we've done over the last 11 years are in.
Um,
Unless maybe the later ones were, because
I think maybe some of the ones that come a little later are, let's check. Uh, let's see. Uh, well, I'm not sure. These I think are
Sort of later.
the potential upper enclosure Beaumont Terrace Historic District. That was Upper Gregory in 2019. So let's just see. You following me here? Because
Mhm.
it so here's the related report 2019. Here we can open that and see if it's there. No related records. So I think you're right, Brian, that uh, that many of these are not uploaded into the data yet.
is it because they don't have time, they don't have money? I mean,
Um, it is those. It's also they tend to have done some counties. It's not about townships so much, but as it is about counties. And they've done some counties more thoroughly than others. And what I could tell you, for instance, is that uh, this database got a huge boost after Hurricane Sandy or Superstorm Sandy, because the data, much of the data hadn't been digitized. It was slowing FEMA down and doing evaluations quickly of historic resources that were damaged during the storm. And so, as part of the FEMA uh, effort to give back to the state and prepare for the next storm, and as part of mitigation for some damage they actually did to historic properties along the shore when they were doing the cleanup, FEMA paid to have a lot of the reports digitized for the shore counties. So if we went over to like Monmouth or Ocean or Atlantic, uh, you would see that most of those reports are in here. Uh, we might be able to download the PSE&G report. Let's just see. No, it's not finding them.
Maybe they're taking the townships alphabetically.
They might be. We might also be able to get into it through another layer because that sometimes is. So what I want to do is I want to turn on historic properties and historic property features. Let's just click on one of those. So what I just clicked on here is uh, a building on the PSE&G site. It's considered contributing. It's called building number 4. And it's contributing, but it doesn't really tell you a whole lot about it. And doesn't look like there's any report associated with that either. So I guess it just may be that Essex County is something they're not really, they're kind of working their way through.
yeah, for PSE&G, as I understand it, that was part of a statewide report.
Well, yeah, what it is if you follow this polygon, uh, what you're going to find is that you would meander all over like the north central part of the state. It kind of goes down to into Somerset County and Union County down that way.
Hmm.
And uh, it was done as a survey of cultural resources because they were replacing the transmission towers. And as it turns out, it was an interesting story, is that transmission line is the first or maybe one of the first integrated networked in electric lines in the history of the United States. Where they tried to connect a whole series of power generating stations and substations together that would back each other up and move power around the region as it was needed. Today we live like in a networked electric system that whole, we're getting our power from Niagara Falls and it's backed up by power from stations over in New England and, out in Ohio. But this is the beginnings of that. Like if you were to trace that story back, in the early part of the 20th century, every town had, every factory had its own electric powerhouse, if it had electric power at all. Or maybe they had it from the trolley, you shared it with the trolley system or something like that. So this is the first sort of attempt at a public regional connected transmission system for electric power. And that's why it was important. Many of the buildings are still there, but the towers have pretty much all been replaced at this point.
But as I understand, in our case, our switching station, all those
Mhm.
original Art Deco style buildings are still there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so are there any of these historic district polygons anybody else would like to see any of them? Or should we turn that one off and go to a different layer?
Yeah, but do a different layer. See where it goes.
That's fine.
So I'm going to go to the one called historic properties next. And the historic properties, it's very similar to the historic districts, except they're outlining tax parcels. And so you can see that blob of red or pink in the middle there. That's Llewellyn Park. And that's showing you the tax parcels in Llewellyn Park that were considered in the nomination to be the contributing properties. Okay.
Oh, sorry. What are the different shades of color?
Well, the pinks are properties that contribute to a listed historic district. The reds are the deeper reds are this here are actually individually listed properties. So that's going to be the Edison Storage Battery Company building. Okay. The yellows are eligible, or the pale yellows are eligible properties that contribute to historic districts. The blues are identified properties from surveys. So the deeper blues are ones that were surveyed individually, and the lighter blues are ones that were surveyed and thought to be potentially contributing to historic districts. So that would be like you get up here into the St. Cloud area. Back in the day, we were thinking about a St. Cloud neighborhood historic district. So they were kind of surveyed together as a group. So they kind of get that paler blue. And then these grays are buildings that were or properties where there was demolition or damage. I think this one here is St. Mark's, right?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting that they now, that they acknowledge the damage there.
Yeah. And similarly, historic property features, and I'll turn that on at the same time as the historic properties. There's a lot of overlap between historic properties and historic property features. And the features are the triangles, and those are actual points, like those pins in the map, and they show features that were identified within the properties by the surveys when they were done. So like in Llewellyn Park, although all the houses there and all the tax parcels have been identified and are pink for contributing, the only buildings that the SHPO could identify through that data that are called out probably in that nomination specifically as inventoried on a like a pin on the map are things like, you know, the surveys that have been done at Clermont. So that's the historic property layers. A lot of the blue on the West Orange map are from the CLG surveys. The pinks are from the historic district nominations. If you zoom back out and you just kind of look at West Orange as a whole, I'll try to center this up as best I can. And I'll turn on the historic districts. What you can really see is that, you know, from a geographic distribution perspective, most of the work has happened, you know, right along the valley road and up to the top of the ridge. And when you go over the ridge, there's very much less density of survey. And now the survey that we recently completed is not in here yet, so that's going to start to fill that in somewhat. But you certainly get a sort of the perspective that you know your surveyed and resources are really, you know, focused, you know, over here on the eastern side of the township right now. And you may or may not know that if you get down here in the southwest corner, that South Mountain is a historic district.
Yes. But is it a state historic district? It's not local.
It's not local, yeah. It is state, it's eligible per the State Preservation Office, which means that a nomination could be prepared and it would, you know, be listed if someone were to ever want to prepare the nomination for it, the official nomination. What I think you probably may or may not have noticed yet is that, and I'm curious about this too, that even though you're a CLG government, and they should know, you know, all of your locally landmarked properties, they don't have all of them in here, I don't think. So, for instance, this is where the hardware store is, right? I think I've got that right. Or is it?
No,
Yep.
Yep.
that's the hardware store.
That's the hardware store. It's not, it should be purple, right? If it were local, but it's not. But if you go down here, I saw one of the West Jersey cottages, I think.
So Patrick, would it be helpful if I sent the SHPO a list of our locally designated properties so they can check their various databases?
Yeah, it would be. So
Okay,
there's the Tompkins house, right?
all right.
And
Just below it is the Condit House.
there's the Condit house.
Hmm.
So they've got those in there, but I don't think they've caught up with the maybe some of the more recent landmarks you've done, even though I know you've reported it in.
Yeah, maybe we just need to call it out. I mean, it would have been included in annual reports and things like that. but
Mhm.
Maybe I should send them the same list that I send our buildings department. So it calls it out.
Yeah.
Did any of the reports ever identify parts of Main Street, like the area down near Washington Street, as eligible?
Let's go up the road here.
Yeah.
So here we are, and um,
The answer is yes.
so the answer is yes. So the yellow one here is the fire station, right? Which has an official HPO opinion of eligibility. That's why it's yellow. And the blue is the Main Street Historic District that we identified in 2014. And the dark blue are the properties within that boundary that we thought could also be individually eligible. Sometimes they're called key contributing. And the lighter blue ones are the properties that we thought at that time were contributing.
In 2025, didn't we ask you to look at the Llewellyn Hotel and
You
maybe-
did. Yep. And we looked at it again, and I think we said it was contributing. The one thing about this is that you might see some of these buildings, these sort of brownish or tannish squares or building outlines. Some of them aren't shaded in at all, right? And the reason for that is that when we did that survey, you didn't ask us to survey every building on Main Street. It was just a selection of buildings. And so we did that, and they're the ones that are colored blue. So there'll be survey forms for those. But the ones that aren't shaded in blue, they're still within the boundary of what we thought was an historic district, but we didn't do a form for those. So that's sort of an undetermined, like whether that building right there on that lot would be contributing or not, it's been not determined. But we thought it was within the boundary of the historic district.
And that district, wasn't it the fact that Torrey Corner sort of anchors it that influenced your decision on that?
It was the association with Torrey Corner. That's an important, very important part of the history of that area. But also from an architectural standpoint, it really hangs together as a traditional Main Street, you know. So I think that was another area where we called it out, and it's very important in the history of West Orange locally because it is Main Street. I mean, it's really the kind of the that area up in there for retail and restaurants and serving the residents of that end of the township. It's been or corner of the township is it's been important. So there are some other features over here in the layers, which I thought you might find interesting. I'm going to turn off some of it just to kind of keep it from being too cluttered. But if you're interested, you could see by turning this one on, this is a layer that shows you the municipalities in New Jersey that are CLGs. And so if we zoom out a ways, you can see where your competitors are. You go after the grants.
And there's what, about 30? And that I always thought it was 30, but that doesn't look like 30.
Yeah, I think the total is between 30 and 40 out of some 200 municipalities. But you can certainly see that it's you're kind of in a cluster of suburban Essex where you all went to the effort, laudably so, to become CLGs. But there are large parts of the state and certain counties where it's not, it's barely on the radar.
Right. There's whole counties that don't have a single CLG.
Yeah, I mean, and there are places where you would think it, like Warren doesn't. That doesn't surprise me, but it's always surprised me that Morris County doesn't. You would think Morris County would be all over.
You think
Yeah.
Morristown is
Morristown, yeah.
be there. I'm surprised. But yeah, that cluster in Essex County, it looks like it begins with Montclair and Verona and then West Orange. But Livingston and Roseland and yeah, you got the names out right there.
Yeah, we're sort of zooming in a bit there. Yeah.
Well, let's not consider, let's not, try and encourage others to do this. We don't,
There's not that much CLG money to go around, right?
What's interesting is that Maplewood is a CLG, but not South Orange. Now, those are two communities that you can barely tell the difference if you're
Hmm.
through. And they are a joint school district, but one doesn't seem to care about their buildings and the other does.
well, I don't know if they have an HPC. I know they were considering it about 10 years ago, but I
Yeah.
don't know if they ever went through with it. Do you know, Patrick?
I don't think so, but I'm not tracking it.
And without an HPC,
Yeah.
it can't be a CLG, obviously.
So,
The resources of Maplewood and South Orange are almost identical.
so I'll show you a few more layers, but what I would say to you is that there's you could if you love maps and you like exploring through a database like this, or if you haven't ever done it and would like to, it's a lot of fun. I love maps, and there's so much information in here. There are lots of things to look at. You can't break it. It's just click on whatever, and if it kind of gets hung up, just close it and start all over again. It's not a problem. But there are we looked at the historic preservation layers. I guess I could turn on the archaeology one just so you could show you that. The archaeology layer turns on just squares in a grid. And the grid's colored blue, yellow, or orange and red, just like the buildings are. And what that's telling you is that somewhere in this area of Llewellyn Park, there's a listed archaeological site.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to tell you exactly where or even what it is. It's just that there's something in that square.
Keith, have you ever heard any talk about that?
Absolutely. One of them fell down during Superstorm Sandy and it has not been rebuilt. The other one is on the old, they were basically stone arcs and or arches. The other one is on a piece of property and it's still standing. There may be others, but there are two that I'm aware of.
So archaeological sites can be ruins, they can be sort of like landscape type features, they can be Native American sites, they could be historic archaeological sites, old farmsteads, but that's so those are telling you where there's actually been usually a New Jersey Historic Preservation Office identification and opinion of a eligible site. And then there are these base layers, which are, things that legislative districts, U.S. Geological Service quadrangles, the New Jersey place names. Turn those on. These are official place names in the state of New Jersey. So you get Hutton Park, St. Cloud, Llewellyn Park, West Orange,
Pleasantdale.
and Pleasantdale.
Mm-hmm.
And turn that one on. You got the tax parcels, you got to get in close enough to see them. But they'll come on in that light blue. That's your tax parcel map. And if you clicked in any one of those tax parcels, you'd actually could look at the parcel number and basically the tax data that's on the tax cards in West Orange, minus the name of the owner, because that's private privileged information these days.
Interesting.
Administrative areas. These are, I don't know if any of these are going to apply to, congressional districts and legislative districts, I guess, that will tell you, the legislative district that West Orange is in, and who your representatives are in District 27. These other layers, we probably can't see them unless we zoom out a little bit, but there are special areas in the state, and this is where State Preservation Office reviews can take place because of DEP permitting. So the SHPO reviews development projects of a certain size in the Highlands area, and you're just outside of that. That's up, up in the Northwest. There's a Pinelands area. That's down there where it's collared in, of course, in South Jersey. There's a DNR Canal Commission review area. That's over here. That's because the Delaware Maritime Canal, which is an historic district, is really only one of the very few historic canals in the United States that still has water in it. Most of them are just dry ditches. And the reason it still has water in it is that when the canal went out of business in the 1930s, the state took over the canal and it was converted into a water supply conduit. So that open canal delivers fresh drinking water to many communities in particularly around New Brunswick. So any kind of work that takes place in that watershed gets reviewed by the DNR Canal Commission, which has an historic preservation office of its own. That doesn't apply to West Orange, but that's something if you need to know if you live down in that or want to work down in that area. And the Meadowlands too, a little closer to home for you, but again, further over to the east. And CAFRA is a big one that catches a lot of historic preservation work too. And that's for coastal area development to keep the coast from becoming overdeveloped, particularly for like things like flooding. And that runs all along the coast. So I've had projects like I had a project down in Ocean City where they were redeveloping a motel. The motel wasn't really an historic building, but they had a wonderful neon sign. It was called the Pavilion Motel, and it had like this big circus tent neon sign with seahorses dancing underneath it, and from like the 1950s. And so when they redeveloped it under CAFRA, I worked with them to save the sign, and we actually got a neon sign museum in Cincinnati. Couldn't find one in New Jersey who would take it, but we found a museum in Cincinnati that collects neon signs, and they sent it out there under CAFRA.
Oh, wow.
But it had to leave the state,
It had to leave the state, yeah.
just like our diners.
Just like the diners, yeah. The planning, it's kind of similar. You've got different kinds of like brownfield development areas. I don't know if there are any of those in West Orange or not.
I
See,
haven't heard if we have any brownfields.
doesn't look like it. There's one right over the border in
Orange.
Orange.
That the Hadding district? I'm trying to see from this map.
Central, they call it the Central Valley Brownfield District. Actually, does it overlap into? I think it overlaps. I mean,
Into overlaps.
it's into West Orange, yeah.
Yeah.
See right there's the boundary between Orange and West Orange.
Marty,
So like,
is that the
yeah,
Hadding?
like around Mitchell Street, Tompkins Street, and Valley Road, right? That little area right in there, a couple blocks.
Okay.
Valley Street, is that what we were just looking at earlier? Or was that Valley Road?
Valley Road.
It's Valley Road. Now, why this map calls it Valley Street?
Yeah, it changes just around right there where you're,
Right there at Forest.
yeah.
Okay. So it becomes Valley Street once it gets down into this area.
But the dotted line, boundary line, is beyond that area, and then it comes down into it along Freeman Street, I think it was.
Oh, okay, back this way.
Well, back that way.
Oh, up this way. Okay.
Get up into here.
Well, it's Valley Road north of the boundary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see above it, Central Avenue, the line picks up. So yeah, a significant amount of that is on the West Orange side. So that would be, that's brownfield development areas. Okay.
Yeah, so they have like their special funding, to clean
Clean the land.
clean and mitigate the soils particularly.
I don't want to say anything, but I think Patterson has a lot of those districts.
I think a lot of Patterson is in a brownfield. Yeah.
All right.
John Franco was very proud to tell me one day that he was now the brownfield director for uh, Patterson.
Well, he wears a lot of hats.
He does.
Yeah.
So I won't go through all these, but you can have fun looking through all these. You could look for wetlands, see how many wetlands are in West Orange. They're kind of coming in blue over here, right? So
Okay.
they're mostly over in the western part along Pleasant Valley Way.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Part of the whole golf course is a wetlands area.
yeah. So, from a historic preservation perspective, if just to say, for sake of argument, a developer ever got their hands on the golf course and wanted to redevelop it, they probably would run into a wetlands permit, and then the State Preservation Office would tell them they need to hire on a researcher, whoever, to go out and survey it and do archaeological studies. And, depending on what's found, it could shape that project differently than maybe how the developer would want it to develop.
Uh-huh.
He could also tie it up and keep it from happening. It's not impossible.
Well,
And then finally, I guess geology, you can look at like the bedrock and that kind of thing, the soils types. But this area, the last layer I'll show you, and then I'll wrap it up, is you can go to this layer called imagery, and you can change the background of the map to go back to the 1930s. And if I turn that one on, that's the 1930 is just about the oldest accurate aerial photograph that you can get. When they started flying them planes systematically over all of New Jersey, taking photographs as they went at a constant elevation. And these photographs are really useful because they've been georeferenced now, and you can really zoom in and see what the landscape was like in 1930.
so are those streets that are shown
The,
overlays of,
the streets that are shown are the current streets
right?
over sort of layered on top of the 1930 photograph.
Right. That's what I thought.
So what you can see is that this development on Kessler Drive, right, which is right here, is built on what in 1930 appears to have been this would be a farm field,
Right.
and a woods. And
Looks like
probably there's some buildings like right that it's hard to interpret sometimes, but this area right in here strikes me as being possibly a spot for some buildings. You can also see that Pleasant Valley Way is shifted a little bit because it's right here.
Oh, yeah.
See? See? So it's shifted a little bit east.
Well, Pleasant Valley Way was pretty much like the western boundary of West Orange. Everything west of it was pretty much undeveloped.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could go over this way and you can see the golf course
Mhm.
and um, of course here it gets much more developed.
Right. We should be able to see the entire Edison complex.
Yeah, we should. Let's go. Let's see.
Get,
I've kind of lost my way here.
yeah,
Hang
you
on.
gotta pick up Main Street again.
I gotta go the other way.
There it is.
Right.
I'm going to turn off the that I think it's the street map that's overlaying it. See if I can do that. Try. There. I think it's a little easier to see with this other base map.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so the battery building is pretty prominent, and
Yeah,
that's still there. And the
there's the
main
lab. Yeah,
lab, yeah, it's still there.
but this is pretty
But
much all gone, right?
everything to the east is gone.
It is all gone, yeah.
Right. All right, that's fascinating.
Is that
Yeah.
street still called Edisonia Terrace?
I don't.
Yes, it is.
Is it? It's so near. All right.
You see it there, right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I just turned off the 1930 layer, and then
There it is.
Yeah.
and then this is a close to present day aerial photograph.
Um, I don't think the building, the black building off of Lakeside going towards Orange, I don't think that one's there anymore.
It's not there. Let's see what.
No, that's the
The Barton,
no, that's uh the I'm blanking on it. The people that plow the roads in West Orange.
Oh, so this is a newer building right here.
It's newer, but not that. That's the department,
Oh, the engineering department is there.
yeah, like buildings and grounds.
I thought they had vacated it.
I think the plan is to eventually.
So I think if unless you have questions or you want to go look at a specific property or address, I'm willing to wrap this up and entertain any questions. But I hope you find it interesting and it's a tool that I hope you maybe find some time to use and definitely I think as we go forward possibly with future surveys it's kind of a tool to maybe in one way you've got it's starting to take shape that all of that data is consolidating in this one space. And it's not all there yet, and it's not entirely, like the links as I showed you and the scans of the reports are not all there yet, and there's some missing data, but eventually the SHPO is going to get there. And Brian, I think your thought that if when you talk to the CLG or communicate with the CLG coordinator that you had a training session and you looked at this and you loved it, but you noticed they're still lagging a bit in some areas, that it might prompt them to um, give you some priority. I don't know exactly how that works at the SHPO, but
It's-
it might. I doubt they ever have any CLG, say to them, "We love Lucy, like, but we're not up to date. Can you get us up to date?" That they probably never had that.
Well, I think we'll impress them being the first.
There you go.
Say that they haven't, but I've never heard that they had.
Well, I mean, just basic things like all the reports, the site surveys that we've produced,
Mhm.
our listing of local historic landmarks. It's not really there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I can tell you that you may have heard the name of Kenny Clark. Kenny's the head GIS technician at the SHPO, and uh, he's very good at what he does. And he's definitely looked at the reports because he's the guy who's getting all those he actually the guy who's drawing all the polygons. Somebody has to actually do that on their computer, like draw every rectangle and put in every point. So it's not something that just sort of automatically happens when you PDF a report. So he's looked at the reports sufficiently to find the paper maps and begin to get that and begin to draw that into the database. But clearly there's a step that hasn't happened yet, which is the scanning of the reports and linking them into the data.
which in a way, that seems to be the easiest part.
You would think it is, uh, but I've never quite understood exactly why some things seem to get done and like that and some don't.
Well, as you pointed out to me that, for more than a decade, maybe 15 years,
Mhm.
SHPO's office was so understaffed. I mean, you would echo if you went in the office.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, they do, and their office also several times has been remodeled, and when it got remodeled, they'd have to pack everything up, and like I know that like if a report like even when I was going in all the time to look at paper reports, there was a time that they kind of did a remodel, and when I came in after the remodel, this would be like around 2010 or so, any report that predated 1985 was gone.
Hmm.
It had just gone to the warehouse and it was never coming back.
Oh,
we
You
never
know?
did that again.
Hmm? And so I mean my guess is that that if those reports have survived, they need to be, and they haven't been scanned, somebody's got to go fetch them out of the warehouse.
So they're all just sitting in a warehouse. So they feel, well, we've archived it as it were. It's just not.
Mhm. This hasn't been digitized, and then they did have shells with everything from 1985 to the present there. Uh, and it wasn't until COVID that um, that they began requiring that the consultants who turn in our reports give them PDFs.
Hmm.
It's only been like 3 or 4 years since we began making digital only submissions. Before that, if we sent them a PDF of a report, this is before 2020, or even, I mean, more like 2021, um, it didn't count. I'm seriously. Like, like, like if I was communicating with one of the staff people there and I'm like, oh, I'd really like you to review this report. I'm sending you the PDF. They'd be like, oh, thank you. I love getting a PDF. Except you still have to print a hard copy and send it to the office. And until the administrative assistant logs it in as a hard copy being in the office, it doesn't officially exist. And they were doing that up until 2021.
But they've changed their ways.
But they have changed their ways. And the corollary to that is if they did get a PDF of a report prior to 2021, it wasn't getting logged in any systematic way. It was like just arriving on, any one of a dozen different staff people's computer, and they were putting it.
So it didn't go into a central database even.
No,
So it's just essentially lost.
I, I had reports get lost that I thought were there. You know,
Well, someone,
and I would have them go like, "Well, you may have sent that to me, but I can't. Nobody can find it, so I guess it never got here, and it didn't get logged in." And I'm like, "I handed it to you," and you're like, "Well, I'm like, well, you handed it to me, but you didn't hand it to the administrative assistant, so it never got logged in, so it never officially existed."
well, going, now, maybe you've seen it, but when I asked about the full PSE&G report from
Mhm.
12, 13,
Mhm.
couldn't come up with it. They came up with a summary. They
Mhm.
couldn't come up with a report.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a result of what you're talking about.
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
It's in that warehouse, you know, with the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so, but to their credit, they are working at catching up, and a lot of these reports do exist, but I just think they haven't had any chance to digitize them.
Yeah.
And as you say, that to have it seems like that would be something you could do, but it doesn't happen very quickly.
Well, when did they begin to really restaff? About 3, maybe 4 years ago?
That sounds about right. Yeah,
So they have a lot of catching up to do.
they do. Yeah. They weren't allowed to hire permanent positions for probably the entire Christie administration, be my guess. So when someone left or retired, this position just left unfilled.
And all those PDFs are sitting on their computer, which isn't turned on.
Right.
Oh, gosh. Patrick, could I impose upon you to do one thing? Could you
Sure.
send us a one-page cheat sheet about using Lucy?
Sure. Sure.
And then we could have that as a reference.
It's a great. I really
Does
appreciate you
anyone
walking
have other questions? Otherwise, I think Patrick will probably be wrapping up. Nothing? Okay.
Well, thank you.
No, but thank you.
Yeah, this is great.
You're welcome.
Very
Thank you
informative.
so much.
I just brought it up on my phone.
Me too.
What did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started
Oh.
looking through the website.
Oh, okay, good. I've never tried it on my phone. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good.
In miniature.
Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing if I can figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in Morris County, man. Wow.
Okay, we're back. All right, if nothing else, Patrick will say thank you again.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You two have a great
you.
holiday as well.
Yeah. Happy holidays. So long.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.
Well, Max, you went to the mayor's party. Did you bring us anything?
You guys should have come. There was the police benefits committee was having their meeting off to the side.
Well, just the way our meeting fell this month. Couldn't.
No, I get it.
I talked to the mayor's secretary about it. And I talked to her far enough in advance. The date for that party was still in flux. I said, well, if you can influence it not to be on the 17th.
There you go.
Told me, no, it's got to be on the 17th.
Well,
She did ask about the monastery.
She
And, I told her we had been to look at it.
Uh-huh.
And that they're interested in restoring it.
Heidi, did Leah Peace ever get in touch with you about, I know you offered to potentially help them with a landscape plan. Did she ever get in touch with you?
No, I never heard anything.
she got in touch with me about some interior things that we spoke about.
So she's staying with you then?
Yeah,
Well, maybe they'd be more interested in the landscape plan in the spring.
yeah,
Nobody-
not much to do right now.
But yeah, we should, do what we can to engage them, and maybe eventually they'll hopefully be amenable to having the building designated. But as long as they don't sell it and they're doing the right thing to preserve it, we're okay.
The mayor actually mentioned, I have to ask her more about it. The
Could you speak up just?
the Open Space Commission
Uh-huh.
might have some funding that they could throw their way in exchange for maybe hosting some town events there. I'm not sure, but that could help them with restoration.
Heidi, do you know anything about that?
Well, there is some money in the open space budget from the tax, but I hadn't heard. The committee only met for haven't met the last 3 months, and that was by design. So there's been no communication about part of that budget going to support events. So I know nothing about that. I don't know that that's actually what the open space trust fund is meant for. So
Fair enough. Yeah, that's just what she mentioned on the way out. I told her I was headed to this meeting.
yeah.
She tried to strike up a conversation about the monastery, but like many other plans, they often don't come to fruition.
Yeah, well, the open space trust fund is meant for open space and recreation acquisition and development.
Yeah,
So that's not event programming. So
One last thing, as we look forward to our new year starting, we do a great job reacting to things going on in the township and some forward planning, but maybe not enough. And if folks could think of, even if everybody just thought of one initiative that maybe we'd like to take in 2026, we could plan it out and, sort of expand what we do. And I would love to do that next year. So and we could discuss that at our January meeting. So over the next few weeks, if you could think of just one initiative that you'd like to see for the commission for 2026, please email it to me. It would be great if we could talk about something like that at our January meeting. Hey, Jeff, in that regard, I know a while back you spoke of trying to use the commission to bring students from Montclair out into the field more. Do you think that's still a possibility?
So, I'm no longer chair of the history department, and I'm technically not teaching history right now. I'm directing honors. So, I'm in a different world in a way. But I do think that, when I listen to, a presentation like we just did, and I did create a course on historic preservation, that there's probably an opportunity that I could speak with the chair about, who happens to be a really good friend of mine, and see if there isn't something we can do. So yeah, I will absolutely work on that. And thinking about initiatives, I think it would be great if we all actually met for some event together, even if it's just a lunch somewhere at some point next year, rather than always seeing each other, on a Zoom. But that's just, one suggestion.
No, that's a good idea.
Well, one thought we had was to hold a meeting in the council chambers to introduce the latest site survey to the public.
Oh, that's right.
Now, maybe we could start before that with dinner at the Chit Chat Diner and then head over to Town Hall. So that's a thought. That's a good thought. And you know, we first talked about actually doing that at the February meeting, and I was thinking about it, saying, you know, people don't want to come out in the winter. Maybe we should wait till the spring. So, what made me think of the Montclair initiative too is last week I went to Montclair High's winter choral concert, and they introduced the new. They always have a student teacher from Montclair who works with the various choruses over there. They always get very talented people, and you know, they, for the concerts anyway, they get up, they conduct, and they work with specific groups over there, and that kind of made me think, oh yeah, we have all that talent at Montclair that we could be tapping.
Montclair school system is deeply in debt, so I don't know if all those people are gonna still have jobs.
Well, Montclair State University is well funded, I hear, so we're okay.
The university is
The,
something.
the state gave Montclair school system a loan, so
20
they'll have 10 years to pay back.
Well, we only have, what did we read in the paper the other day? 171 million in debt here in the township, and what are we gonna do about it? I mean, just all those accumulated bonds from however long they've been accumulating bonds. I didn't get to attend the meeting, so I don't know what was said. Maybe I'll read about it in the Four Oranges.
Did we find out if Joe's staying with us?
No, but I'm going to be speaking with him before the end of the year and lobby for that. But they've had their last council meeting of the year. They only meet once in December. So he's technically still the president of the council until they elect their new officers in January. And that's when they usually do the commission and committee assignments.
How about lobbying for a bigger budget?
Well, you know, I asked the CFO, spoke with him the other day about the budget. I said, well, now that the council's passed the budget, what is our budget? Because I put in a budget request months ago, asking for more money but a reasonable amount than we've gotten in the past few fiscal years. He couldn't actually tell me what they had passed for us, but they're supposed to let me know what's in the what was in the past budget.
It was under miscellaneous expenses.
But very important expenses. No, I mean, look, even if we got $1,000 more than we've been getting, that's and I think I only asked for $1,800 more than we've been getting. You know, figure as an incremental increase might be helpful. I mean, look, there was a time, as those of you who've been on the commission for a while knew, we were down to $1,000, $2,000 a year. And then, you know, we lobbied hard and we got it back to $5,000. So if we can just inch up a little bit every year, account for inflation, we'll see. I'll report back to you on that in January.
All right. Listen, do you need a motion to adjourn? I gotta get something to eat. So I know it's not.
Anyone second that?
I
Well,
second
Marty,
that.
you should have come to the party.